Happy Halloween and welcome to my homemade costume review. Hi friends, my name is Claire and this is my channel, Woodshed Theory. Here, I make content about what it is like to live as an adult on the autism spectrum and whatever else feels good to me. So if that sounds good to you, or if you're feeling particularly gracious today, and I hope that you are, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, ring the bell. I almost forgot to mention that I put out videos a few times a week, so click the like and the share. Help out your good friend Claire. I have been wanting to do this video for literal years. Today I am sharing with you 4 costumes that I have sewn myself. One of these costumes has been seen in a video of mine, 2 videos of mine in the past, but the other costumes were supposed to get full videos on my channel and that never materialized for many different reasons. My hope was always to share the costumes with you, so today I'm getting a chance to do that. So if you're looking for some Halloween inspiration, sit down, grab a cool beverage, and here we go. The first costume I have to show, I think we'll call Prairie Girl costume. So I made this right when the channel started. It is my take on the pandemic Target dress. I don't know if you were following memes at that time, but right as the lockdowns started, Target put out, well, there was kind of a few seasons of these really, they almost look like costume prairie dresses, and they got progressively more prairie dress costume-like over those seasons. This was my answer to that. I decided to make my own pandemic Target dress as a response to the dresses they were putting out at the time. I'm really proud of this because even though, looking at it now, it's not that great, I had just learned a bunch of new techniques on this costume, including how to do French seams, which at the time was a big deal for me. I really wanted to make this a complete piece of clothing that was also finished on the inside, and that was accomplished. I also did not use a pattern for this. I traced a work shirt, and you can see that in the video. I'll link it down below so you can see it. So I traced the work shirt to get the pattern for the top, and then added a collar, just this thin collar at the top. But let me tell you, having tried this on again, the collar is so tight. The rest of the costume fits perfectly, but the collar, even looking back now and remembering or trying to remember that experience, it was several years ago, the collar was really tight then too. So if I had to redo it, the collar would be bigger. Some of the parts I'm really proud of. I inlaid this lace. It's crocheted lace that I bought, so it's probably not real crochet. I inlaid that along the collar. It has wooden buttons. I didn't carve them, I bought them, but I was trying to go with period accurate. I mean, is this correct? Period correct? No, probably not. It's Prairie Girl inspired. The fabric is just a quilting cotton, which is not what you want to make your clothes out of, but there we are. I got this green leafy fabric and then this other fabric that has like a little print on it as well. I liked that I did the sleeves. I added like a little ruffle on the sleeve, and then all the way down at the bottom I added a ruffle detail as well. As you can see, look, the basting thread is sticking out, so not the best. It's basically a glorified sack dress with buttons on the front. Oh, the other thing I did was learned how to do button enclosures, like hand stitch them. So that's not perfectly done either, but I learned how to do it. Do I remember how to do it? No, I don't. Some of the things I'm proud of on the inside, I did finish the sleeves on the inside with some bias binding. I think I did the waist like that as well. And then the seams that aren't done in bias binding are done in French seams, which means that the seams are enclosed, and if you washed it, technically it would not come undone. But I can see here how poorly it's sewn on the sewing machine. I've definitely learned a lot since this, but in general, like for a costume, pretty good. For the next video I did with this, I turned it into a Prairie Girl costume by making some accessories. So the accessories that went with it that I highlighted in the next video, very, very basic apron. And I just basically sewed a tie onto a piece of fabric. I didn't even finish the bottom. I thought that made it look more rustic. And then it has a matching bonnet, which I actually should wear this out in the sun more often, but people might laugh at me. I think I got a free pattern for this somewhere. Matching bonnet, and it has the trim on it as well. No, I did not make the trim, I just purchased the trim. In general, I am happy that I made this. I learned a lot. It is not something that's super wearable, but if you do need a Prairie Girl costume that is semi-historically accurate looking in a green color, then this is your costume. This next costume is maybe one of the best, or not best, but favorite things that I have made. This was supposed to get its own video. I did film the video, but unfortunately, I did not give myself enough time to get the video out in time for Halloween, and then eventually the footage, I accidentally deleted it. So this is a Spiderweb costume, loosely inspired by some vintage Spiderweb costumes that I have seen. Mostly inspired by this fabric that Joanne was selling that year. I remember that it was kind of on a middle, I guess you wouldn't call that an end cap, but it was on a Halloween display, and they were selling fabric in 2-yard increments, and one of the fabrics that they were selling was this mesh that came with a spider web printed on it in velvet. So cool, like a massive spider web. So I thought it would be so neat to make a spider web inspired dress out of it. I actually did wear it with this hat. The dress itself, I really like how it came out. I did use a pattern for the shell of the dress. That did not go that well, actually, but I think it was because of my skill level at the time. The dress is made out of a stretch velvet. I think I got as a remnant, maybe like a yard of stretch velvet. So cool. The inside is all finished with French seams. The hardest part of the whole thing was doing this cutout at the top. The fabric came in 2 yards, and it came with 2 big spider webs. This piece of the spider web is from the second spider web that it came with, and I had to do like a shoulder cutout of that piece, and then it snaps in the back. I'm pretty proud of it, actually. It's not perfect. That's something that you'll hear me say a lot, but for a costume, come on now, I'm proud. I love the detail here. It's got a little sewn on velvet sparkly bow. Pretty neat. And then the coolest part probably are the sleeves. I would have liked for the sleeves to be maybe a little longer and then the spider web, but because of how big the spider web is, the sleeves are basically like a cap sleeve or a short sleeve with the spider webs attached. And I think each sleeve got half a spider web. Look how cool that is! I still think it's so cool. Both sides have the spider web detail. Now that's cool on its own, right? That like sheath dress with the spider web sleeves, but also has this. This has the same sparkly ribbon along the top as the waist. And this is an overskirt that I made to go with the costume. It's a full spider web. It's so neat. I'm patting myself on the back, and I know it's not like a spider web's not like a super original costume, but it looked amazing. Actually, I think you could wear this as like a spider web cape, and it would look really cool too. Like with a black dress, you could wear this as a cape. But definitely because of this fabric, one of my favorite things I've ever made. I'd love to take a quick moment to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, teddyblake. teddyblake is a luxury handbag company without the luxury price tag. The bags are made in Italy by expert craftsmen out of 100% Italian leather. This is my bag. It is the Ava in the 11-inch size with gold hardware in camel brown. I've had the bag for several months now and I have been using it. I've really put it through its paces. The leather has actually softened up a bit. The other thing I love is that I've gotten unsolicited compliments about this bag, and who doesn't love getting compliments? I'm coming at you today with some great news, and that is that teddyblake is having a Halloween sale from the 31st of October to the 1st of November, where you can get their bags at a great price. I'll leave an affiliate link below if you'd like to check it out. Or if you've missed the sale, I'll also leave a code below that you can use, and that code is TB Woodshed Theory 30. Thank you to teddyblake for sponsoring this video. I hope that if you're interested, you'll check them out at the link below. This next costume almost made me quit sewing forever. So I'm excited to be able to share it with you. The plan all along was to make a video, and this is another one that didn't end up becoming a video because even though I filmed everything, the process went so poorly and the video never came to fruition. So here it is. I think I've shared it like in some live streams before and said the video was gonna come out, and it never did. I don't even have all the footage anymore. It is gone. It was a traumatic sewing experience. I mean, it looks better than it is on camera, I think. But this is a dress that I made to go to Pride. I decided to make like my dream rainbow explosion dress. It's inspired by some other designers that were popular a few years ago. I bought the pattern for the dress off of Etsy. The pattern was fine. The pattern was not the problem. I was the problem. I went to the craft store. I purchased a lot of supplies. I thought that's okay because this is like my dream dress. I don't think I'm alone in wanting an iridescent rainbow dress. I think that's something a lot of people might like. The issue is, even though it's beautiful and I got a lot of compliments, I did not have the right tools to make this. I did not have the right skills to make this, and that was reflected in my experience. I don't remember if I cried. I did spend a lot of time frustrated working at this, trying to make it work. It is like a puff sleeve rainbow explosion. Originally, it was supposed to have a different lining and just be all one piece. Let me show you. This is how traumatic it was. I still have a bag just full of the extra fabric. Let me grab what was supposed to be the lining. This like cheap polyester satin lining. Yeah, these are fabrics I never worked with before. They're super slippery. I think I remade the bodice out of this 3 times at least before I quit trying to make it work. It was terrible. It was awful. I know I should do something with that bag of fabric, but I it's just been in the closet, away from my mind. So what I eventually ended up doing is just doing the 2 layers of fabric. So one is this like chiffon rainbow, which is still like, wow, so beautiful. And the other was this plasticky iridescent, look, there's a hole in it, oh my gosh, iridescent fabric. It was supposed to be a lot of things. It was supposed to have a zipper, ended up with this like wonky back with a weird button situation going on, and then this is like a piece of elastic to hold the back up. The bodice is cut like right here under the bust. It is not straight across. I was hoping to have like more ruffles on the bottom. That did not materialize. And the ruffle that is on the bottom is gathered in some places, but not at the end, because I didn't know how to measure out how much of a ruffle I would need, and I ruffled the whole piece by hand and then just sewed it on and called it good. It was a disaster. It barely got finished in time, even though when I wore it, I got compliments all day. It was amazing, and I think it's super cute, but in general, the experience making this dress was a disaster. The seams are all over the place. The fabric is fraying. There's holes in it. In the end, I ended up getting a purple, like lavender slip from Amazon, and it almost didn't come in time to go under everything because it's see-through because of the mishap with the poly satin lining. Terrible. I do like the little flower details I sewed on right there. In the sun, it looked freaking amazing, but it's terrible quality. The experience was terrible. Having to make it work was terrible. After it was finished, I didn't want to talk about it for a long time. Now I can look at it without just not ever wanting to sew again. This was a lesson in not thinking that just because you know how something should go together, that you know how to work with the fabric. I was not ready to use all of this like chiffon, which like shifts when you're cutting it. Disaster. I kind of think now that it's been 2 years, I'd want to try making it again because I have improved with my skills a lot. I'd say a positive was this dress taught me more about myself and my skill level and my sewing skills or lack thereof than any other project I've worked on. It definitely made me question my how hard could it be gene. It was that hard. I mean, look at the, I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Everything is fraying. I did my best, but disaster. Disaster project. The final costume I have to show to you today is the costume that I made for the Ren Fair last year. One of the special interests I got into when I was in high school was researching the Society for Creative Anachronism, and I'm sure they're still together today, but it was the society that did basically cosplay for living in the Renaissance. I never ended up joining. I was just so interested in making the costumes and the clothes. Needless to say, my dream was to go to the Renaissance Fair and make my own costume for that, and last year I finally got to do it. The costume itself had a few pieces. There was the skirt. The skirt itself is made out of this really nice tan. Like, this is my color. You guys know that, but this is a really nice tan color, autumnal color, and it really is just a huge rectangle sewn into a tube and then cinched at the waist. I ended up using way too much fabric for this. On the instructions, I got them off of Etsy. I'll try and post them down below. It did say you could use less fabric in the pattern, and I went with the full amount of fabric. The problem with doing that is it became super heavy and also really bulky at the top. Other pieces. This is a peasant top that I made to go underneath the costume. Basically, it's like a raglan style. I think I got the pattern. I found it free online somewhere. It just has some stretch at the top, some stretch in the sleeves. The fabric itself does not have any stretch. In the future, I probably would change that. It has French seams inside, so you could wash it. Kind of an easier project. I enjoy doing that. The biggest part of the project, the most complicated, detailed part of the project, was this pair of stays that I made. I got the pattern off of Etsy. I will post that below. I am really proud of this. One of the favorite things I've ever made. I feel like the quality is really good. It's made from this fabric that I got at the thrift store. Historically accurate? Oh heck nah. But super pretty, very autumnal colors. Has a little shine to it. It's got like all my favorite flowers on it. So I really enjoyed making the stays. I got to learn a bunch of new skills. I got to work with boning. I got to learn how to put the grommets. Is that the word? I always say it wrong. Grommets. I got to learn how to put those in all over. It is lined with a pretty cool herringbone pattern fabric. So you could wear it that way if you wanted to. You could turn it inside out. And it has the brown bias binding all over it. I think this was my first time learning how to do that even better. I also made a modesty panel to go underneath it. So in general, this was absolutely one of the favorite things I've ever made. I liked all of the detail work. Sometimes when you make a big project, you don't get to do as much of the hand finishing. And with this, I got to do a ton of that. So I would absolutely make another one of these again. I have fabric in my stash to make another one of these again. Maybe not the exact pattern, but this is so cool. I loved making this. I loved wearing it to the Ren Fair. Just one of my favorite things. I also wore a belt with the costume, but it's just something I had. To go on the belt, I also made this little bag to go with my costume. I embroidered a little acorn, and this is also embroidered on. These little, are they called French knots? I learned a lot. I learned a lot trying to do this. It's made of velvet, and then I used a velvet ribbon in a complementary color. The inside is faux suede. It really did its job for the day, and it made me feel very special and luxurious, so that was that part of the costume. This was another example of I was gonna do a full video showing my Renaissance costume last year when I made it, and it didn't materialize. I did film the whole process, and most of it was put out in YouTube shorts. You can still see them on my channel, except for the stays video, because what I chose for the music got taken off of YouTube from the YouTube catalog. So basically they took my whole video down and I didn't redo it. So I'm showing it to you now. That was a lot of fun. I'm glad I filmed that. Those were the 4 costumes that I've made since I started the channel, and I'm so glad that I finally got to show everyone all of the hard work I put into them. Even though they're not perfect, they're mine, and that makes them really special to me. What did I learn from sewing those costumes? I think I learned that I do feel like I have a natural inclination towards sewing and understanding clothes and how they're put together. But that doesn't mean that I don't have a lot of work ahead of me with learning how to sew things and make things that are wearable and look professional. Especially with the rainbow costume, figuring out that I just did not have the skill set at the time to work with those fabrics and make that pattern to make it match up with what I had in my head. That was so difficult for me that I was just exhausted by the time it was finished. And even though everyone who saw the costume really loved it, I felt tired just putting it on. And every time somebody said it looks nice, it just reminded me how hard it was to finish, and I just needed to wait a long time before talking about it again. It doesn't bother me anymore. that that happened. I can look at it without doing an internal cringe. But at the time, I don't remember if I cried or not, but there was a lot of sitting on the floor being exasperated. I do remember that. It was just exhausting. Another thing I think I learned making all of these costumes was that sometimes you need to slow down and learn new skills, because just because you think you know the easy way to do something, or you know the way to do something, doesn't mean there's not a better, easier way to do it. Also, I learned about having the right tools for the job. When using complicated fabrics, I'm not sure that I was cutting them correctly. I wasn't weighing them down so they didn't shift all over. I did not own a serger at that point, and I do now, and that would have made the entire process a lot easier. But in general, I am really happy that I made the costumes. I have always found, since I was a young child, that I enjoyed sewing, I enjoyed creating, and I like being able to go into hyper-focus and really get a project done. And I love that I get to wear the project after I'm finished with it. So there you have it. That is my homemade costume parade for Halloween. I would love to know in the comments what you thought. Also, have you sewn your own Halloween costumes in the past? I would love to hear what you have sewn in the past. Maybe you've sewn cosplay costumes, or maybe costumes for a play or some sort of event like that. It would be cool to hear your stories down below. Have you ever attempted to make a costume that was way out of your skill set, and how did that go for you? Did it go as badly as it did for me? I hope you have a very happy Halloween, and I will see you next time.